heard from students at that school who experience disabilities is that they don't have the ability to get out on the playground with their friends during recess or lunch hour for various reasons. But one is because they don't have, the union isn't allowing folks to lift them out of their chair to put them on the current features. So we want to make something where they can actually just wheel right on and play with their friends. The Sherry Avenue playground, this is something that, these pocket playgrounds or pocket parks that we have around town certainly have their positive and negatives. During a time when people are restricted to their own neighborhoods, it seems to be a good time to invest in green spaces in individual neighborhoods, which is what Sherry Park is. Sherry Park is located, of course, in the north end of Kentville, and it hasn't been touched since my time being here. It's literally just a field with a swing set right now. So we wanted to do something for that community, to kind of have a place for folks to kind of come and gather versus having to leave their own neighborhood. So that's the background to all of those playgrounds. The dog park, it is our land. So if you, the village of New Minas approached us to say, hey, we're both being solicited by the same dog park organization, the Kentville Off-Leash Dog Park, anyway, whatever their acronym is. Why don't we come together, since our communities are so close together, and it was actually their idea, why don't we put it in the, the town of Kentville has land in the East End. So if you're going on to if you park at East Hollow and you walk towards the river to get onto Harvest Moon, if you kept going, then there is that dike land that is owned by the town of Kentville. So we've pulled together a drawing that would have room for small dogs and large dogs, and as you all know, there is a demand for that. We would, the plan is to go in 50% with the village of New Minas. They've started to move this forward in their budget process and are certainly interested and keen in it. It would be a partnership between the village and town, so it would be the Kentville New Minas Dog Park. There hasn't been any formal agreements made. We just want to put it out to council that that's there. The big cost for dog parks is the fencing. It's about, $20 a foot of fencing. And to be able to make enough space for the dogs to run around is where that cost is coming from. So yeah, those are the background. Oh, you're on mute, sorry, Councillor Maxwell.
Okay. Yes, Rachel, thank you. Thank you for all that explanation. The accessible KCA piece, definitely, we definitely have to get that done. On the PTA, it's something that's really needed out there, and that is something that really needs to be done. So I agree with you on all those parks, and the dog park location I think is great, and I'm really pleased to hear that you're partnering with New Minas on that one. I think that's a fantastic idea. The skate bowl, I think that the extra room is needed out there. I think it is a hot area for people to go and play and skateboard and scooter and the whole bit. And with my background, I have a hard time saying no to something like that. So the rest of the councillors would have to add, come in on that. But I appreciate your explanation. It makes total sense to me. We do need more room there. So thank you, Rachel.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I see this as being a large sum of money that we could put towards infrastructure. I look at it in our budget, and under health and safety, it's a yes, and it's a priority 10. And I don't quite understand. We talked about, as is the road and sidewalk infrastructure, which I think is an actual priority 10, health and safety, not all these parks and stuff. So for me, and Rachel's right. The skate park is probably one of the most popular, but in this day and age of social distancing, it's probably one of our most problematic spots in town where that's not happening. So for me, I don't see anything necessarily essential here. The dog park, before we spend a cent, I'd like to see what New Miners is willing to ante up, but I see this as a fairly large fund that could be diverted to infrastructure. Also, it's over $250,000 that we would have to borrow. So anyways, my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Savage?
Thank you, Worship. I agree. I agree with all the work to be done to the playground, because I think being outside is really important right now. I don't know where the feedback's coming from. Sorry. Anyway, I think it's important to do the work on those. When I go for my runs, I normally will run by the skateboard park, and I have noticed the last few times that I've been quite impressed because folks do seem to be social distancing there. I think that's really, obviously that's really important. They seem to be respectful. One goes on, one goes off. They're limiting their 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off. They appear to be anyway when I sort of stop and have a peek around. And I know that it's $200,000 and it's a big chunk. I guess one of the items I would mention, so the borrowing piece to this, Deb, is 67. So we're looking at financing 67% of the 728.8. Is it possible that we would be getting any other sort of grants that we could apply to this, or are those all built in to the budget?
The grants, the possible grants are built into the budget.
Okay. Thank you. This is a hard one. This is a hard one because it's so needed, I think, especially right now. But it's a difficult one for sure. I'll say that. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew?
I'm of the mind that the one part of this item on this part of the budget is the skate park. I'm not sure. I mean, I understand it's important right now, but we're also in another interesting thing together here, and it is a large amount of money. And if there were ever a time that people would be understanding to a delay, I think it'd be now. I'm also not sure, given the importance of it right now, that making it a construction site is really going to help with the management of the skate park. So I just think this is the wrong time. I think in my view, it becomes a great discussion for next year. We have, as a town, with some partnerships, we've invested a lot, and we've obviously already created a very desirable place for people to do those activities. So just right now, I think if we're gonna, if this is the last time for any of us or each of us here, to that some of that investment in the more essential infrastructure just makes a lot of sense for me. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bolland?
Thank you, Worship. I concur with my colleagues, and especially Councillor Andrew. I'm looking at $200,000 to, how can that money go to the greater good for everybody compared to the select few that are skateboarding? And again, the majority of our recreation users are not from the town of Kentville, they're from outside. I mean, if Kings County wants to participate and contribute 50 cent dollars, and then possibly, but again, 200,000 is a lot of money that could go towards other projects that are needed. The dog park, I think it's a great thing. Again, if we can get some 50 cent dollars from the County Kings, New Miners for that. Playgrounds, that's a good investment. The ball field, and certainly looking after the shed siding, that's not a lot of money. But the skate park bowl, I don't think it's the right time.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsifer? You're on mute.
Seem to keep forgetting about that. Yes, once again, this is a great project. These projects are great, especially the playground, the accessibility aspect. I mean, that's something that we definitely need to move forward with, and very important. Ball field, fencing and so on, the gazebo. I do, once again, I do comment on the bowl. And Councillor Andrew brought up a good point about the construction of the bowl. It would be quite difficult to do that and still have the users at the park, you know, this summer again, with construction going on, cement pouring and all of that. So just to reiterate of hopefully moving that expense to next year's budget and allowing that money to be perhaps allocated somewhere else. So thanks, my opinions.
CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we may be able to make this a little bit easier decision as well for council with regards to the skate park bowl. We do not have our final permission from the Department of Environment. I don't believe it's going to come anytime soon, and we can't move forward with the project until such a time as we get that. So, you know, I think that that could potentially be an easy decision for council, in that it's probably based on what we're seeing with regards to environment and the province and how they're working. It's probably going to be anywhere from late summer to early fall before we actually get the final approval on the skate park. So, you know, potentially we can push it to another year, and then we can put it out for tender early in spring of next year, as soon as the budget has been approved. But again, I think, you know, with regards to the playgrounds, I think there will come a time at some point this summer that they will open playgrounds if they can, because there's so little that, you know, they're able to do. So perhaps, you know, having them ready. I think there's a lot of excitement about the Memorial Park playground. I'm getting comments. I've had a few people ask me when it's going to be completed, because they're seeing it, and it's going to have features there that aren't readily available in other places. So I think there's a bit of excitement there, building around that playground. But I think that the skateboard park bowl, I think that could very much be an easy decision for council to defer, just for 1 year, because I think it's going to take us a while to get the environmental permission to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you have your hand up again?
I do. This is a question for Director Kroll. You had said that the grants and everything were already built into this.
Yes.
So what are the grants? And they aren't for sure, correct?
There's two grants that we have included in here. We have the a province ability grant. We're hopeful to receive $10,000 for the accessible feature at KCA Playground. So that's $10,000. We also have the possibility of getting a provincial grant called the Community Recreation Capital Grant, and this would be for the Oakdean Park gazebo, and that would be $5,000, and that's going to be applied for. As well, we have $35,000 we put in here as a capital contribution related to 50% of the dog park from the village of New Minas.
Okay, so conceivably, worst case scenario, the funding for the 10,000 and the 40,000 falls back on us.
If they get done, yes.
If they get, okay, thank you.
CEO, you still have your hand up?
My apologies, Your Worship and Council.
All right. Can we do a 10-minute break? We've been sitting here for 2 hours.
Sounds good.
So it's 11 o'clock. Can everyone be back at 10 after 11, but ready to go?
Yep.
All right.
2-minute warning. All right, Deb, we're 10 after 11.
Sounds good. Okay, we're looking at continuation of the recreation department's budget. We're looking at the section called equipment. This year we're looking for $17,500, and they relate to these projects. The bike racks for $8,000. This is an initiative discussed at the strategic planning workshop in December 2019. It points to our active transportation plan implementation and alternative transportation methods, and the racks will be located in parks and in the downtown core. The second item on this list is the shade structures for $6,000, and these shade structures will be permanent structures that will be installed, cemented in place. The sails will be attached to them. Those are removable once the season is over. With the increasing heat in the summer, we hear more and more that we need to increase opportunities for folks to seek shade, and we are looking at installing these at the pool and at the splash pad. The third item on this list, $3,500, relates to a table saw dust vacuum system. The town's carpenter requires a new table saw combination and a dust vacuum system. Presently, he does not have a dust vacuum system, and this is a health and safety concern for him. So in total, projects under the equipment section, $17,500. The funding would come from the town's reserve funds.
Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. A question through to Rachel. $8,000 for bike racks. How many bike racks is that? I know it includes installation, labor, etc. But
Yeah, and that's not too much. Depending on the bike rack, so we'd have larger bike racks in the parks and smaller ones downtown. We're also looking at bike racks that are, a little bit user-friendly, so that not just for bikes, but also can offer potential seating for downtown as well. And in some cases, they would be made, they would be constructed with, the Kentville logo and Kentville branding in mind, so that ups their enough. But during our active transportation consultation, specifically with youth, actually, they identified a number of places where they keep looking for bike racks in town. And so there's at least 4, if not 5 locations just in our parks we're looking at. And then, of course, increasing the amount downtown, especially as the Harvest Moon Trail picks up.
and you made a nice point there, in consultation with youth. So that's nice that young people are telling us where they should go, or we're getting their feedback. So that's good. Thanks.
Yeah, it was great to hear from them, actually. They were very, and the fact that they were requesting bike racks, I thought was a really big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, super.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question's about bike racks too. Actually, did I hear that the bike racks, we already have them? And secondly, how many bike racks do we have currently? I'm just wondering if the trail's not going to be completed. It's a 5-year plan and stuff like that. If we've got to start putting the bike racks out now.
So, sorry, the first question was, do we have the bike racks currently?
Yeah, I guess I was told that we've got boxes of bike racks that came in.
Boxes and boxes. No, we don't have bike racks yet because it hasn't been approved. So we don't have bike racks. And with regards to the question around the trail, so there's still people that are biking to and from places with whether or not the trail is completed in the downtown core. I assume that's the section of the trail you're talking about, the Harvestman Trail?
Yes, and I'm just like, do we currently have bike racks at certain spots? I know we've got some throughout town.
Yeah, we have a few through town. We have folks that are wanting more, but we're looking especially for parks. So the trail, like I can tell you the things that the youth told us. We don't have any bikes at the pool or the tennis courts, bike racks. We don't have any more parking down close to KCA school, around the playground, around the hub. We have no bike racks. Specific, I thought this was actually really interesting, around the entrance behind the Ultramar, that trailhead there. They were specifically asking for bike racks there because they like to be able to lock their bike and then go up to Ultramar and buy candy, which was my childhood dream as well. Yeah, and then also at Oakdean Park, we have no bike racks. So those are the places in the park where we currently actually don't have bike racks, which is really interesting. And then, yeah, with regard to the trail usage, I don't know if that's going to currently impact needing more bike racks downtown. Well, it will when it's in there, but we still don't have enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Rachel, have we ever looked at, so for pumping your tires, having a pumping station close to any of these bike racks or something like that available?
Yeah, we currently have 5 of those, well, maybe 4 now, I think, located in town. So that could be an addition later on that we would increase those stations. We have one in front of the rec center. We have one at the Gorge. We had one down at Memorial Park. I think it might be out now. I'd love to put one up at Oakdean Park.
Right, yes.
And we have one at Eves Hollow. So there's a few smattered around town, but it would be certainly part of a longer strategy to increase those as well. So that includes not only a bike pump, but also some simple tools.
Okay, yeah, I knew about the couple and the one at the Gorge. Are they quite expensive to add to these where the bike racks are, where they would go?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them in a while. You know, they do tend, depending on the quality, and we like to get better quality. And you can get some with just the air pump and without the tools. Okay. I couldn't tell you the amount right now. I can tell you, excuse me, that we had a grant for them previously before. I think we got some funding for them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and certainly I would assume that we would be able, with our Connect 2 funding in the future, we'd be able to apply for some.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be ideal that you're able to park your bike and work on it. And
absolutely. Yep. Yep. The more outdoors, the better. Thank you. That's absolutely great. Thanks.
All right, Deb.
All right. Moving on to the last component of the recreation budget, which is studies. We're looking for $35,000 this year. We're looking for $35,000 for the accessibility strategy. This committee has been appointed and will work on this endeavor over the next year. Every department is going to be part of this major significant plan, and the action plan will make the town accessible by the year 2030. There will be funding opportunities for accessibility after our accessibility plan is complete. Right now, we're looking at the $35,000 being taken from our reserve funds.
Councillor Savage?
My apologies. I usually remember to put my hand down, but I didn't. There we are. It's down.
All right, Deb, no hands.
Okay. What we're going to do then is show you the recreation summary. This is the entire budget on one slide. Last year, we looked at $723,100. This year, we're looking for a small increase of around $5,700, $728,800 related to soccer for $8,000, green spaces
$249,800. Facilities, $32,000. Parks, playgrounds, $386,500. Recreation equipment, $17,500, and the recreation study for $35,000. The funding sources would be from our own sources, $5,300 from reserves, $136,900 from the province of Nova Scotia. We're going to ask for them $60,000 all told from them. Contributions, $40,000, and borrowing for this budget, $486,600. So moving on to just looking at the capital program overall, this is the entire program put together as compared to last year's figures. It's very comparable, although it is in decrease of around $312,000 from last year's ask and last year's capital budget. We're looking at gas tax at $470,600, administration $133,800, protection $143,200, transportation $569,300, development $80,800, and recreation $728,800 for $2,126,500. You look at the comparison of the funding related to this program as compared to last year. Also, of course, it's a decrease of $312,000. We have reserves providing $653,600 of this budget. Gas tax reserve, $470,600. From operations, that's a town operating fund, $51,300. From contributions, $40,000. Proceeds on the sale of capital assets, $11,000. From the province of Nova Scotia, the ask is $60,000. And from borrowing, $840,000. So the borrowing in this budget is lower by $241,500 or 22.3%. And the funding from reserves is also lower in this budget, $77,300. And that is a combined total of reserves from our own reserve funds and the gas tax reserve. So that's the capital program funding and the financing for the program proposed by the directors this year. So do you want to stop there, or do you want to move on to the rest of it?
I've got a few questions for you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. So is this the time where we would delete out the 200,000 for the skateboard bowl, or that just will be automatically done?
I think I hear most are looking to have the skate park bowl removed, and the funds, from my understanding, is put towards some other infrastructure. I need to have that confirmed, though.
Your Worship, do you need a motion? I know we're just kind of in general discussions right now. Would you be looking for a motion on that, or just a general consensus?
We will require consensus to make sure that that we can go forward with that. But can we wait? So if you can hold that, and we'll go through the questions and then come back to it. Does that work?
Absolutely. Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, Councillor Maxwell.
Am I muted?
No.
Okay. No, I was just going to ask the same question as Councillor Savage. And when we do reallocate for infrastructure, can we be a little bit specific about where we're going to put it as far as infrastructure goes?
So I think that is something that we will have to discuss, but I will also say that what you have here is a 5-year plan. So if you're putting something on infrastructure, you should probably be picking something up that's in a future year, because our engineering department has already looked at it and determined that this is your areas of highest need.
Are all those sidewalks in that plan or not?
There are sidewalks in the plan, yes. So if you go back to page 2 of the plan under your gas tax, you'll see that your sidewalks are there. And the ones that are out 3 years are $431,900.
What page is that?
Page 2. So your gas tax infrastructure, sidewalks.
Page 2.
Kathy, it's page 2 right after you
I've
get.
got it. I've got it here. I'm just wondering about some of the ones that have not been identified, that are not on the list. I would like to have them, considered.
I'm
So-
sure that engineering can do that, but there's no way that today that we can pull something that's not on the list. The other thing you have to consider is if you're looking at your local roads, if any of those sidewalks are on local roads, those are things that they're looking at an entire infrastructure. So to put a sidewalk only to rip it up in 2 or 3 years doesn't make
No,
much
I'm
sense.
not looking at local roads. I'm looking at, for example, the Chestnut Place one. I'm looking at the Chapel Road to Pleasant Street. I'm looking at Selfridge to Academy. Those are all on main roads. And Cornwallis Street is there. And so I'm just, thinking that there are ones that have been neglected over the years because I don't know why, but they're not on those lists. So
Okay, well, I think that will come down to engineering, and if you look at the sidewalks that are on the list, these are all very much main roads and main streets. So you're
the ones I gave you are all on main streets. If you go up,
Chestnut is not a main street.
Chestnut's not a main street, but if you go down and walk on that, you'll notice the road is very narrow. I think that's a sidewalk that needs some attention. So there's a lot of kids down there, and having them all walk out on the roads going up to school. There's a sidewalk there, but it needs repair. Anyways, that's just my question. So
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. So just to echo her comments, we're not embracing the 200K for the skate park and other items the last 2 hours. So I like to see a revised draft obviously come back because it is a numbers game. The shells move around on the board, but McDonald Avenue is certainly on the list, and that should be reconsidered now. One other question, maybe through to the CAO. The County of Kings, where do we stand with them? Not with what's owing, because I know we have credits and back and forth, but any of these line items involved collections from the County of Kings, like say on the recreation portion? Or is it all our money, or
All us.
any comment?
All our money. There's nothing here that we're expecting anything from Kings County for.
So what does that mean? We're absorbing all of the recreation costs with no funding from Kings County. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. They haven't, now, I'm not, perhaps Director Bedingfield, have you had any conversation that potentially you see that the county could be coming on stream? I know that they're looking at how they fund recreation in Kings County, but they have done that a few different times over a few years, and I haven't seen any changes. So unless, Rachel, you have anything that might shed a light on Kings County, we've built nothing into this budget because there is no commitment from them at this point in time.
So what I can say to that is that the funding agreement that they would be looking at for Kings County is strictly operational. They've right, and Deb's nodding with me here, I'm hoping, but they've never come on board unless we've applied for grants through them, which is where we got the money for the skate park. So all told, including the bowl, we have received 50 cent dollars for the skate park in total, and that's from the county, from the province, from the feds, and from us. But no, there is no, there's no agreement, nor does it look like there is agreement in the near future to come on with capital projects from the county. We're still trying to figure out operating budget. But
Deputy Mayor.
that's like every other year.
Thank you, Worship. So I guess I've got a couple of things to say. Number one, from the last 2.5 hours conversation, I think it was a general consensus that we want to divert some more money into infrastructure than other spots, recreation and other places. So I don't necessarily agree that we sit here and go, okay, we won't do the bowl and, well, we'll put the money, you know, it'll be somewhere else. But I agree with Councillor Boland. I think we've got to come back to this. This is not something I would be willing to pass today, especially since, yes, we're putting the infrastructure, the gas tax money towards streets and sidewalks and stuff like that. But if you go through your summary, or sorry, not your summary sheets, but your explanation sheet, the town is not putting 1 cent of tax dollar, aside from gas tax, into streets, downtown improvements, parking lots, or sidewalks. And then the other thing, and maybe it's just me that has a problem with this, but with the grants, you know, we don't include money that Kings County might pay for recreation because it's not guaranteed. Well, yet we throw grants in here, and that, you know, the total of grants that we just went through, I believe, was $50,000, a 10,000 and a 40. So that is a cent on our tax rate. So conceivably, we could budget for X, and that money not come through, and you know, who's left paying that, or is it something else that gets deferred to next year? So I've got some real concerns about this budget and the direction of the conversation that we were having, and I think we're going to have to come back and revisit some of these things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to remind everyone that that capital is funded either through our reserves, gas tax, or through borrowing. So it is not actually reflected in our mill rate or you know, on our tax rate. Councillor Pulsper.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question was answered in the previous councillors. So
okay, thank you. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we have a very strong message right now from Council with regards to direction for staff as to what we should perhaps be looking at making some changes. And if Council is in agreement, we can, staff can take this back, and over the next few days we can look at some different priorities and pull something together based on the input that we've had today from Council, and then come back to you with a second draft of the capital budget. And just before I leave that, one other thing has come up with regards to the capital budget that we haven't had a chance to share because we only just got everything back on Friday and sorted out. So also there's going to be an issue with Town Hall when we have to reopen to the public. So there has to be some modifications that are going to have to be made to Town Hall in order to both be able to self-distance and protect staff, protect the public. And so we brought in an architect to give us an idea of what we were going to need in order to be able to open back up to the public. And he basically had a look around. He looked at what we had, what we don't have, and he gave us an estimate and to do the design work, and that will include, and I'll use an old term and Dave will probably smile, but it will also give us as-built of this building, which we don't have. I think they're called record drawings now. So that is at a cost of $18,739 in HST, and we can certainly circulate, pull together these details and circulate them to Council as well. But unfortunately, prior to Town Hall opening back up to the public, we are going to have to make some modifications. So staff are certainly ready and willing to take direction to Council and go to a second draft of the capital budget.
Thank you, CAO. Okay, back to Councillor Savage's question with regards to the skateboard bowl. If we could have a motion to defer the Memorial Park skate park bowl until the 2021-2022 budget.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council defer the Memorial Park Skate Park Bowl until the 2021-2022 capital budget. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Oh, no, Deputy Mayor, I see your hand up.
It was actually up for to ask Kelly a question, but I guess I would.
We'll go
I would
back to
mention
that.
this. No, but I do have something to say according to or about the bowl.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if this motion is necessary, given staff is going to come back to us with another draft of the capital budget.
It has been in our budget, our 5-year budget, so it has to come out, and it should come from us because it was put there because of us. So staff doesn't just pull things off the budget.
Okay.
Even in future years, if you look at all of our budgets, you'll always see that everything stays there unless we've taken it off.
Okay. All right.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, Your Worship. You're saying that we're going to pull it off the 5-year plan? I thought we were just going to...
No. We're deferring it to 2021, 2022.
Okay, great.
Yes,
That's
yes.
good. Yeah.
Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Ready for the question?
Yeah.
To defer the Memorial Park Skate Park Bowl until 2021, 2022 capital budget. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes. All right, Deputy Mayor, you had a question for, oh, sorry, the motion is carried unanimously. Deputy Mayor, you had a question for the CAO.
Yes, my question was just when she said it was 18,000 plus HST, I think I know the answer, but when you're dealing with architects, you don't. The 18,000 is all of the renovations and not just the architecture fee, correct?
No, that's just for the design work that will be required in order to do the renovations that basically will get us to the request for proposals, the RFP process.
Okay, thank you.
That does not include any renovation work.
Thank you.
CAO, before we proceed with a motion directing staff, when would we meet again for a capital budget meeting?
Well, I guess you probably are now not thinking that it'll be deferred, that it'll be on the agenda for the 25th, because we'll bring back the second draft. You'll still have to review that before you can recommend it to the council meeting.
Exactly.
So I would suggest that probably the first week of June, somewhere around the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the first, second, or third, if council are open to have another capital meeting there, then if they're fine with it, it can move to the council meeting on June the 8th. But if council wants it sooner than that, then please let us know, and we'll do our best to do something sooner.
I guess the question is how much time do you need as staff?
Well, I would like to have at least a week.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'd like to get some more details around the dog park as well for you.
Okay.
So there was a few items there that I think council needed some more information on. So it would be nice if we had a week.
Okay, very good.
So even towards the end of next week, Thursday or Friday, if that could work for council, I'm sure that would work for staff.
Okay, then in the motion, we'll do a to be determined with giving you a week's time.
Yeah, it would be nice though before everyone leaves if we could get consensus, and then that way everyone can get it in their meeting schedule.
Right.
So the 28th or 29th of May is a Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure, however, if maybe you could consider that.
That's good for me.
Are you talking during the day or I'm assuming during the day?
Well, if we could do this 9 o'clock meeting time, this seems to have worked well.
Just playing devil's advocate, if we run into some possible changes in tomorrow's meeting for the operations budget, would that take more time? So are we scheduling meetings preemptive?
Oh, I think we could probably. I don't think that the changes would be that drastic that we couldn't do both between now and the 28th or the 29th.
The 29th is really good for me. The 28th is really bad.
So on the Friday morning, basically what we could do potentially is come back on the 29th at 9 a.m. and we can bring back draft 2 of both of the budgets, because it won't take you as long to go through them. If that's you should be able to do them between 9 and 1.
Yep.
If that's agreeable.
Good with me.
Yep. Yes, that's fine with me.
Me too.
Okay, then
Yep.
I have a
we have
hand.
sorry?
My hand is up, and it's.
Okay, Councillor Bolland, thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. So, through to Kelly, there were some budget items that were triggered with federal funding, green municipal funding, etc. I think more in Director Bell's world. Are there any timelines on those? I mean, my goodness, it'd be a pity that an application's gone in and then we hear 3 or 4 weeks from now that we have funding to do paving, but we've declined on it. Is there any of those timelines?
Well, there isn't at this point in time, but always keep in mind that, if something like that should happen, or if all of a sudden they were to announce another round of Build Canada funding, we certainly can come back as staff and recommend a change to the budget even after it's been approved, because the budget is the guideline. It can be changed. So if something like that were to happen, we would most certainly come back to council with that information.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you.
So if we could have a motion to return the draft 2020-2021 capital budget to staff for changes as directed during this meeting. The version 2 of the draft 2020-2021 capital budget will be presented at a scheduled budget meeting on May 29th at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council recommend that council return the draft 2021 capital budget to staff for changes as directed during this meeting. The version 2 of the draft 2020-2021 capital budget will be presented at the scheduled budget meeting on May 29th at 9 a.m. Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of returning the draft 2020-2021 capital budget to staff for changes as directed during this meeting. The version 2 of the draft 2020-2021 capital budget will be presented at a scheduled budget meeting on May 29th at 9 a.m. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to the capital sewer budget and Director Bell.
I'm going to try to get us into I'm going to try to get us into showing that on the screen as well,
Mhm.
which may or may
Jason,
not.
Jason is or I am. I think I can hear.
Is what? Jason is sitting on the side waiting for me to ask for help.
Right. I think we're okay.
There we go.
Yeah. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation, but and this may be, you know, one of the items that we change. So I guess we still want to present it as it is now. But if we add money to infrastructure, maybe it will also affect some of the items on the sanitary sewer area service capital budget. This is the memo that was written to CAO Rice and copied to Deb Kroll, Director of Finance. The area service is seeking capital funding for 2 projects in the 2020-2021 fiscal year in the amount of $235,300. Basically 2 projects. One would be the Prospect Road from Overlook to Academy sanitary sewer renewal. This is essentially a capital works in progress project that again was tendered late last fall, and the weather didn't permit the successful bidder, Mid Valley Construction, didn't have time to finish or even start this project, so it was deferred sort of to this capital fiscal year. And the second project is Condon Avenue sanitary sewer renewal. As part of the already in the water budget, water was approved a few weeks ago for replacement and upgrade of the water main on Condon. Storm was completed last year, sort of an emergency situation, but the street suffered so much damage. This is a time to sort of fix up the street, but we don't want to do that without fixing the aging water and sanitary sewer, so we're budgeting $52,800 for the sanitary sewer portion. The infrastructure is failing on both these areas, causing continual maintenance by Public Works. The funding would come $105,300 from the sanitary sewer depreciation reserve, $30,000 from the operating fund out of current rates, and $100,000 from long-term borrowing. Before we get to the bottom of the page, the next page, I guess I'll look for questions.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, and I could probably find it in here. How much is in capital reserve for sanitary sewer right now?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead, Deb.
At the end of March 2020, the capital reserve, there was a capital reserve that has $140,369 in it. There's a sewer depreciation reserve that has $184,013 in it at the end of March 2020. The deposit to the depreciation reserve in 2021, the annual deposit will be around $90,300, and we're actually going to be taking out $105,000, $300 to withdraw to fund this part of this capital budget.
Okay, I was just trying to see if it was maybe something that we could pay a little bit more for and do less borrowing, but I'm sure we've got to keep a certain amount in the account, correct?
The sanitary sewer area service, or the funds are restricted to sanitary sewer area service, so we can't use the funds in the town of Kentville.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to pay for sanitary sewer as much as possible with our own reserve funds and not borrow for that service.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question. In the 2021-2022 budget, it's showing $250,000 there the next year for Colonial and Pleasant. I know in the next year that we're doing $368,000 for the Burke subdivision paving. I'm just asking this because I don't know. Do we have to replace infrastructure there before paving can be done?
Yes, we do. That's why we haven't paved the street. You know.
Great. Is that what 250 is, David?
it's the sanitary sewer portion of the Burke subdivision.
Right,
That's-
okay, yep,
Yeah, and we're
Right.
hoping, we're hoping we'll get a Build Canada fund to,
Right.
the entire project's between 800,000 and $1 million.
yes.
If we could get 50 cent or 33 cent, dollars, that would be a big help.
Okay, thank you for that. I know I'm into the next year, but
Yeah,
just a question.
no.
Thank you.
Good question. So I guess, because we're deferring the other capital, or, coming back with draft 2 next week, do we leave this at this stage, or do we do a recommendation? That page 2 of my little mini report has a recommendation for approval, but in light of the fact that we haven't approved the other, do we leave this one in the same limbo, or what's the recommendation?
This can be approved outside of the town capital budget.
Okay. I'm not sure if we're going to add any more to it, and if it would be coming from, some of the things that we may take money from, such things as the skate park, say, could do more sewer, but maybe they're going to do sidewalk. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I guess essentially we should, I can follow on to page 2, which this is strictly a recommendation, if we're ready to have me say that.
Go ahead.
I recommend to council that it approve the sanitary sewer area service capital budget in the amount of $235,300, along with its funding sources for the 2020-2021 year.
Thank you.
Second.
Craig, that was you second?
Correct.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that council recommend approval to the May 25th council meeting of the draft 2020-2021 capital sewer budget in the amount of $235,300 and its funding sources. Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to recommend approval at the May 25th council meeting of the draft 2020-2021 capital sewer budget in the amount of $235,300 and its funding sources. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes, the motion is carried unanimously. All right, we're now moving on to our grants to organization approval. Deb, I'm assuming that you have got that sheet.
I do. I'm just trying to get Dave to unshare his. And somewhere here, I have the grants, but I can't seem to get them up there. Jason's helping. Bless
Okay.
his little heart. Okay. That's okay. There you go. These are the grants. I don't have much to say about them. I hope that you had a chance to vet the information that was up on the grant site to look at. What we have in the 2021 budget is over in this yellow column. This has been built, these numbers have been built into the operating budget because they're similar, they're exactly the same as the requests for last year. You can see the requests in this column here with the red. That people have or organizations have asked for. The ask for this year is at the very bottom of this spreadsheet, which is $26,000. This is what has been built into the town of Kentville operating budget at this point in time. It's comparable to our $27,500. The only difference is that the Uncommon Common Art grant that we gave last year for $1,500 has been removed from the operating budget because that organization no longer exists. That's the only difference. Otherwise, the grants are in the operating budget at the exact same level as what was granted to them last year. So basically, this is for you to discuss and to determine whether you want to give the grant or not give the grant to the organization making the request.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Council, we have one grant on there that is a commitment. And Deb, if you can scroll down so that we can get to the very last grant, the one to Valley Sports Multi-Purpose Center. So that is our committed grant. We gave them $15,000 over 3 years, and this is the last year of that grant. Does anybody have any problem with that? CAO? You have your hand up?
I had some difficulty over the weekend. I couldn't access all of the applications, all of the backup documentation that was part of this. I just have one question, and I know that potentially it could affect Councillor Pulsifer. In that, did any councillors sign any of the applications for funding requests on behalf of other organizations? And if so, then potentially they probably shouldn't be involved in this discussion.
Councillor Pulsifer?
No, I did not sign the application from the Kentville Historical Society. I didn't sign it.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because we don't want anyone to be in an uncomfortable situation. So,
excuse me, my husband signed it though.
So, I can't declare a conflict for you, Councillor Pulsifer. That would be something that you would have to do yourself. I was just advising if anyone had signed on behalf of an organization that they were involved in, that they shouldn't be part of the discussion. But other than that, that would be a decision that you yourself would make.
Right. I guess since I am involved with the organization, I would be a bit biased. So, you know, I'll declare conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Your worship, can you page down, or sorry, Deb, can you page down there? There's a Landmark East, but there's no ask this year, correct?
There is no ask for Landmark East.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we're back up to the top of the page.
Yes.
All right, so our first request is from Annapolis Valley Autism Association for $2,075. Any discussion? Councillor Pulsifer, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'm lowering it.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess my one comment would be the 2075 is over our budget to begin with.
Thank you. I reviewed their request, and most of it is for equipment that the town of Kentville has already purchased and put into sensory bags for people with autism to use. So it's really a duplication of a service. I realize that there's other components, but for most of the components, other than the swing set, these are all a duplication of something that the town of Kentville has already done. And we did seek a grant from the not the hospital, but Rachel, help me out here. The health board. We received a grant from the health board to build up some of the equipment in our sensory kits. So I really feel that this is a duplication of what we already do.
I would agree with that.
Is there anybody who wishes this to proceed? Councillor Savage?
Your worship, I'm assuming that we would convey something along those lines to them, that it appears to be a duplication and that we have this material for them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the AVCC $5,000. So that was the tourism $5,000 that we have typically given. This year, the AVCC is not asking for the money because it has become part of our funding to the Valley Wren, because AVCC and the Valley Wren and VBLI now have an MOU. So what's happened is that our Valley Wren contribution has actually gone up by $3,000, and we don't have to pay this $5,000. So we're a net $2,000 to the good. So this is not required. So if it can be scratched from, or however you're doing it, Deb, I'm not sure. So if we just scratch that out,
We can add it to what we call a contingency grant fund, which means that if something crops up throughout the year, if council wishes, there would be funds available for something specific.
Exactly. Thank you. So I guess that's one of the things that I'd like to mention is on Wednesday night on their NSFM conversation, there's a sense that nonprofits, as we come through this COVID-19, that we would be getting more demands. So there may be requests, and I know that typically in Kentville that we've only considered once a year funding, and perhaps, you know, as we look into the future with COVID, and you know, at what point we come into our new normal, and perhaps that's where our contingency fund comes into play. So moving on, our next one is the Valley Trail Coalition. Typically, we've given $1,500. Their ask is for $2,000. In part of the paperwork that they put in was that this 2,000 reflected Kentville's share at 2.4%. I'm going to defer this to Councillor Maxwell and to ask what, I guess, what they see as our share of, since the town of Kentville really takes care of everything to do with our trail and really do not use the services of their staff.
Yeah, I don't know. I suspect that, because we haven't had a meeting in a while, but I suspect that they just took all the various members and the budget and did a percentage share for everybody. So I'm assuming that's what it is. I think there's value in being a part of the Trail Coalition, as we always have, but I don't think we need to go with the $2,000.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. So if I understand from when we didn't used to contribute to this and we do now, and basically because we take care of our own portion of the trail, the only thing the $1,500 gets us is a seat at the table. So that would, you know, let us discuss, or let our member discuss what's going on outside of Kentville, because we take care of her. So I'd like to strike the entire $1,500 because it's really of no benefit to Kentville at all.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, I think where the trail is running, it's going to be running all through the entire province. I think there is a value to Rachel to have that connect with the Annapolis Valley Trail Coalition and to know what is going on. And they want to standardize fairly well the entire trail, and to have somebody sitting on that board is, I can bring that information back to Rachel. She gets copies of all the minutes and things like that. And it's not to say that at some point Rachel might want to go to the Trail Association, say, you know, can you fix this part of the trail? We don't have the money for that, or whatever. So the Kia Sacks, we're working well with them, and putting up the trailheads and things like that. So I think to be shut out of that organization is very nearsighted. I think that you've got to look for the future, and I don't think closing the door is the way to go, considering the value of that entire trail, not just the Annapolis to Grand Prairie, but that trail is going to run from tip to tip as part of the Blue Route. And to shut the door, I think, is a huge mistake.
Thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Maxwell. I mean, it's nearly 4 years ago that I fought and screamed for this council to get involved with the Trails Coalition, and certainly $1,500 is a small price to pay to keep engaged with our colleagues to the east and the west, and let's certainly keep on, pardon the pun, keep on that right track, trail. Thank you.
Director Bedingfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add to that as well, we also have access through the Trail Coalition to their trail counters. There's a new trail coordinator that they've hired that we've been working with quite closely. Again, to Councillor Maxwell's point, just ensured continuity. The other piece too is that the Trail Coalition is working quite closely with the Great Trail, which is the trail that spans across the country. So we would be remiss if we weren't involved in some part with this, because it's only going to benefit us in the future.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, your hand is up again?
No, shouldn't be, sorry.
Okay, very good. So do we want to take a vote on this to keep it? Go ahead, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. I struggle with the idea that we're paying to buy into a discussion, but I at the same time think it's important to be at the table. I agree with that. Is there a minimum buy-in with this?
It's been the 1,500.
Yeah. Okay. I won't ask anything else.
Okay, very good. Councillor Pulsifer.
Thank you. I feel that $1,500 is a small price to pay to be involved in a voice, and just to, in the realm of things, I would agree to have that continue as paid at $1,500.
Okay, thank you. All right, Deputy Mayor, how say you? Oh, sorry, Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. I just echo what everybody else says. I think it's important to have a seat at the table, whether it's 1,500 or whether it's 2,000. But if Councillor Maxwell feels that 1,500 is sufficient to be at the table, then I'm fine with that. More than fine with that. Thank you.
All right. So, Deputy Mayor, do you want to go with this or not?
I say no, but I'm losing out, but that's fine.
That's okay. Councillor Pulsifer?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes, sorry.
I knew you were a yes, but I had to ask you. Councillor Savage?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that's the keeper. Okay, the next two we had no applications for, so they're out of there.
Go into contingency.
Yeah, well, you take care of that.
Okay.
Glooscap Curling Club is the next one at 2,000, and as you well know, they have been doing a significant amount of construction and renovations over at the Curling Club, and they are asking for a $2,000 grant to continue with those renovations. Any discussion? Councillor Maxwell.
I think the Curling Club has been in existence for years and years and years, and they've done a fantastic job with maintaining their facility and keeping that ice surface top quality. And, I think for us to contribute $2,000 to that facility is, a drop in the bucket for what that organization has been doing. So, yes, I'm a yes all the way on that.
Thank you. Councillor Savage?
Thank you, Worship. Sorry, did you want to
No,
go?
sorry.
Okay. No, I would fully support their request. I think they do great work in the community here, and they've done some great renovations there, and they've worked very well with the town with regards to that street, and I would support their request.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew?
Yeah, I just say the same. My little guy does go to does curl there, but he's part of a program that they and it's very. I think it may be like $100 for the year or something, like for the winter. It's amazing. I mean, most most people could certainly afford that, and they make that's really important to them. And yes, it's a recruiting tool. It introduces people to the sport, but I mean, it's almost no cost for something that builds camaraderie and confidence and all those things. I really am in favor, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pulsford?
I'm also in favor of supporting the curling club, so.
All right. Councillor Maxwell, did you have something else? No? Okay. So is there anyone against that one? Councillor Bolland?
No, I'm in favor. I just want to backpedal for a second. I'm just surprised there was no application this year from Ginger and staff from Chrysalis House. They're on their new construction phase, and were they aware of our deadline? I'm sure our staff did our job and gave them a notification, but I'm just surprised there was no ask this year. Any comment from that?
I suspect that with their capital program, they're doing their capital grants, and we will see them before council before that building is finished. All right, so moving forward, Glooscap, we're all good. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsper?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Savage?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, since my little guy goes there as well. Next one, Multicultural Festival is canceled, so that's off the board. The next one is the Kings County Family Resource Center, $2,000, and this is for doula services and post and prenatal programs. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Maxwell.
Well, I'll just say that I think both of those are, those causes are worthy. Having the doula services, I know, is important to more and more women now, and I think where we're not funding Multicultural Festival, and I think Family Resource does a great job. So, I say yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments with regards to that? So Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes. And that's 2,000. All right, moving on to Kings County Senior Safety Council. They've asked for 2,500. We have actually typically given them 2,000. Is there any comments on this one? Again, I think this is a very valuable service, and I realize that not all the seniors are in Kentville, but there is a good share of them. And in this day and age, with safety and the number of schemes and scams that are out there against our seniors, plus just the check-in for people, I think that this is a really good one, and I'd like to see us put it up to the 2,500. Councillor Maxwell.
I agree with you. Our seniors population is growing in Kentville, I believe, and there's a lot out there, and I really think having an organization to support them is incredibly important. And so, you know, I would say yes to that.
Okay. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I think it's a great organization, and especially during these times, I know they've been working hard, and it's key in our community. So I would support going up to the 2,500.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsfer.
Yes, I also agree. Our seniors are important components to our communities, and whatever we can do to make their life easier, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Yes, no, I echo my colleagues. I think it's a great initiative, and I have no problem giving them extra money. They send it a good message. They're a great resource, and it's good use of taxpayers' dollars. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we're ready to vote on 2,500. Councillor Bolland.
Yes.
Councillor Andrew.
Yes.
Councillor Savage.
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
I'm going to vote yes, but I would also suggest that if we're going to do that, maybe we alter our policy to allow for the 2,500 in future.
We do allow for greater than 2,000 in it's one of our statements that we can approve greater than 2,000.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm a yes.
Okay. And I'm a yes. So moving on to the Kentville Historical Society, they are asking for 2,000, and typically we have given them $1,500. I have two hands up. Are those hands supposed to be up?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay, Councillor Maxwell, go ahead. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I said I've been quite impressed with what this organization has done over the last year or so, and I think their attendance is growing, and being at Kings Riverside Court is fantastic. They've got a huge interest following from what I could see the couple of times that I attended a meeting there. I think what they're doing for the town has been needed for years and years, and I think that people are responding. So I think, you know, if we can support them and keep them going, I think our citizens would appreciate that.
Councillor Bolland?
Yeah, I'd echo her comments. I think they've filled a void here. There's been a lot of interest in this, and a lot of participation. Again, having it Kings Riverside Court is engaging those residents, and I certainly support this. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Savage?
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Worship. I didn't make it to the last meeting at Kings Riverside Court. I had a conflict with some court. I don't recall what it was, but I know that it was very well received, and it certainly seems to be a good working engine, and more people are coming out to the meetings and getting involved. And to Councillor Bolland's point, I think it's a niche that's been filled here in the town. So I support it for sure.
Thank you. I agree with those comments. I think that we've seen some great things. My one concern, or actually several concerns, is that we still have not seen the action that we granted in 2018, 2019 with the $2,000 or with the $1,500 that we granted last year. I would suggest that we give them no more than $1,000, and if they actually get the job done that they told us they were going to do in 2018, 2019, that we give them the further $1,000. But I'm not prepared to give $2,000 when they have not completed what they said they were going to do for the last 2 fiscal years. And another statement in our funding from organizations is that we don't give more than half of the operating budget of any entity, and $2,000 is a lot more than 50%. Actually, it's 3 times more than their revenue. Councillor Maxwell, your hand is up. You're on mute.
I hear your concerns. I wish we had an answer for why their storyboards haven't gone up, but I believe there's probably reasons for that. I think we might be being a little harsh on the Kentville Historical Society. They are doing a lot for the town. Their website is up and operating. Their Facebook page is operating. People are responding. I look at us on our next line, Kentville, Kings County Historical, and the question could be thrown back: what have they done for the town of Kentville? They haven't, they're a Kings County organization. They promote aspects of the town of Kentville, but they don't promote the town of Kentville. And so I think if we're looking at pros and cons, and we're looking at two societies, I would be hard pressed then to turn around and give King's Historical any more than Kentville Historical.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Savage.
Your Worship, would it be in order to ask Councillor Pulsler to comment on a couple of those items that were delayed in 2018, 2019?
I'm going to say that for Councillor Pulsfer to comment on this, it provides her with, it provides the Kentville Historical Society with a benefit that none of the other requests have, and that is someone to speak to the grant.
I understand. Thank you.
So what we have is, and I'm not talking about the pile of things that either of these historical societies have done. What I'm speaking of is the fact that we have granted $3,500 to this entity, and we still don't have any storyboards up. And if we look at the application shows us that they have created 3 storyboards for a cost of just over $1,500, which still doesn't account for the original $2,000 that we gave them in the first fiscal. So I'm not talking about what service they provide. I'm talking about what they ask the money for.
I understand. Thank you.
CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. Unfortunately, where Councillor Pulsifer had to declare a conflict, once she does that, she can't speak. However, having said that, we can certainly have a conversation with, if council so chooses that $2,000 is the allocation. I mean, we certainly can have a conversation, or I can with the chair, and we can get the information back to council, and once they have brought that forward, then certainly we can release the funds. But I mean, you can put the funds in the budget, and then we just make sure that we get all the information we need, and then we can release the funds.
All right. Sorry, Councillor Andrew, go ahead.
Well, okay. I'm okay with that. I was going to suggest that money were just left as part of the contingency, and until we had more information, because I think, obviously, I think we all have and do support what they're endeavoring to accomplish on behalf of the town, but at the same time, an obligation hasn't been followed through, and so at this point, I have a real hard time supporting any money, to be honest. I think we have a responsibility to get some clarity, but I think the CAO has suggested something that makes sense. But I would think that the release, if it's going to be $2,000, should be based on a vote of council once we receive that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, you're on mute.
I should stay off mute, unmute. I'm just wondering if these other organizations that we have granted money to, if we're keeping as close track to what they have accomplished with the money that we give them. Do we know that the Glooscap Curling Club has accomplished every single thing that they said they were going to do with the money we gave them last year? Do we know
Didn't give them any money last year.
Well, this Kings County Senior Safety Council, the Kentville the Kings County Historical Society, I could go on and on. Do we know what they have done and what they haven't done with that money?
Yes,
Are
it's
we keeping as close a track on them as we seem to be keeping on something that is beneficial to our citizens and the town of Kentville?
It's part of our grant process that they put.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is I can get the magnifying glass out with one organization and I can drop it on another organization. And I'm just asking if this is a level playing field or if this playing field has some bumps and potholes in it.
So do you want my answer now, or would you like to interrupt me again?
No, I don't. I don't need an answer. I think that the CAO has given a good suggestion, and I'm willing to go with. I'm willing to go with that. I don't like us passing up on an organization that's certainly filling a niche, as Councillor Savage says, and certainly doing something that we haven't had done in this town forever. So yes, I'm willing to go along with CAO.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. And for the record, I have nothing but good to say about the work they've done. What I have said is that they have not followed through by their own admission in the final reports. And each one of these applications come with a final report of last year's doings. Mm-hmm. So the information is not there. Yeah, it's taxpayers' money.
It's taxpayers'
All right,
money.
so are we ready to vote on that, to hold the money until we have more information?
Are we looking at 1,500 or 2,000?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm for the 2,000. I think most people were.
2,000.
There we go. All right, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Savage?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
I'm a no. The motion passes at 2,000.
Sorry, Your Worship, just so clarification on the motion. The motion was to send it back to the CAO for further clarification?
Yes, at 2,000.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and the next one is King's Historical Society at 2,000. Councillor Maxwell.
Pending what happens with the Kentville Historical Society, I would think we might want to wait on them. I don't know what they do for the town of Kentville for their $2,000.
I think they presented, if I may, I think they presented pretty thoroughly what they do. I think the role of the Kings County Historical Society is a bit different, for sure. But I think they're in the archiving business. So for anyone, with roots in the community, whether they be Kentville or beyond, I think it's a very different function. I think it's really, really actually unfortunate that one group has kind of been pitted against the other when they have quite a different focus. And I know we had at one point I don't know if he was the acting chair. I think we had David Ritchie at one time. The perspective of when the Kentville Historical Society was founded, it was very much founded with Kentville centric perspective. And yes, it did have a reach that was beyond that. But I just think that they're just two very different things. They're two things, and I think we need them both, and we need to support them both, and we do. Anyway, that's just my take on it. So.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsford.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make it clear that these two organizations are not, pitted against each other. We work together. We are not trying to outdo the other in no form, no way. We just have different focuses, both important. And I just wanted to ask the question, is there a project or a specific purpose that the King's Historical Society has declared for their request, their grant request? I didn't see the paperwork for that, so.
CEO Rice.
Your Worship, we're just trying to pull the applications right now.
I'm sorry, Kelly. I've got it right here. It's to offset their tax bill
for the King's historical.
The King's, it's operations is what it is.
Right, operations, and so the only other thing that I can add to this is that I did have a conversation with the chair of the Kentville Historical Society. Now, it was considerable amount of time ago, but at that point he did share with me that they had received funding from the town, that they were having interpretive panels done. They did have a setback with regards to the printing of them and the location. But at that time, with the conversation that I had, they fully intended to complete that project and also move forward with some more. And I know that their website, I believe, was one of those projects which they now have up and running. So, and I did receive a message here from our police chief, and she worked with both of them on the Rupert Davis last year, and she said both organizations were great. And those are her words. So, we're still trying to pull that up, but I think that certainly, if you're looking at both of them, they should be treated equally.
Just one clarification, could I?
No, it's not.
Sure.
You've already spoken. I've got people who haven't spoken on this matter yet.
I'll keep my hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. But we are just absolutely trying to pull any paperwork that may have come in that might clarify Kentville's Historical Society's application. And if I get that, I'll let you know.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. In terms of the King's Historical Society, I think that we've always supported them in the past. They represent something, great in our community. And to Councillor Andrews' point about there being a Kentville-centered perspective, I think they're important to have in our community, and people use them. People enjoy it as they do the Kentville Historical Society. So I would be in support of their $2,000 ask.
All right, thank you. The other thing with the King's Historical Society is, you'll recall last year the event on Webster Street and Webster Court. Unfortunately, the ox pole never happened because the trailer broke down. But we did have the guy doing the horseshoes, and it was they had the whole street doing something as part of a historical day, and then the number of teas that they do at the museum as well. Councillor Bolland.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I certainly support this amount of money. Let's keep in mind that Kentville, we're still trying to create a destination. So people do come in to Kentville from outside the area to that facility and spend money downtown. And again, as you just said, Your Worship, They've had events on there such as historic apple blossom teas, etc. So it's important that we certainly continue to support both of these entities, but I see no reason why we can't support them with $2,000.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I'm not saying at all, don't get me wrong, that we don't appreciate the Kings County Historical Society. Certainly do. And it's been with us for a long time, and they certainly do things. But I'm just looking for equity for both historical societies, because I believe both of them are very valuable. And as far as, I just had something I would like clarified. They say that their 2,000 is going to defer their taxes, but didn't I read in the budget that they're 100% tax exempt from us?
They're not 100% tax exempt now. They've moved from commercial down to residential. They just get a partial tax exemption.
Okay. Okay. So that's a point that I just wanted to make there. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll go forward with $2,000 for Kings. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Savage?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer?
Yes, most definitely.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
Myself, yes. All right, moving on to the next one is Kentville Legion. We had no application. Kings SPCA, no application. Kings Volunteer Resource Center, we gave $1,000 last year. Their ask is for $2,000. Councillor Maxwell.
Oh, sorry, hand down.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. The Kentville Legion, I noticed they're doing some work on the side of their building there. I'm just surprised that they didn't ask for any, because I know that any sort of funding, because I know that back a year or two ago they were saying that they were having some financing issues or some funding issues. But I guess if there's no ask from them, then there's no ask.
I think they got a good grant.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so back to Kings Volunteer Resource Center. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I would be okay with what we gave them last year, the $1,000.
So that's 1,000?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, I was just wondering why the $1,000 increase there, if anybody knows.
They are now in the mall.
Oh, higher rent. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, Deputy Mayor, you say?
I say yes.
1,000?
To 1,000, yes.
Okay. Councillor Pulsford?
Yes, 1,000.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes, 1,000.
Councillor Bolland?
Sorry, 1,000.
Councillor Savage?
Yes, 1,000.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes to 1,000.
And I agree as well. Thank you. All right, moving on. Deb? Scroll. Okay, our New Horizons Seniors Club has asked for $1,000. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, same as the other seniors safety council. Our seniors population, I think, is growing. Seniors today need all the support they can get. Many of them are on fixed incomes, and I think it's nice they have a place to gather and meet. And I think that costs go up. Seniors' pensions often don't, and so I think yes, that's a yes for me on that one.
Is that a yes at 1,000?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Savage?
Thank you, Worship. I would concur with Councillor Maxwell. I think more than ever, having these sorts of clubs for seniors is super, super important. So I would support their increased ask. For sure.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsifer?
The seniors, do they pay rent? They
Yes.
operate out of the rec center, right?
Yeah, they pay rent.
They pay rent.
Yes.
Okay. Well, definitely then I would support the $1,000.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bolland?
Yes, I would support that as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
You support
1,000.
1,000?
Yep.
Councillor Pulsifer, you support 1,000?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, you support 1,000?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, you support 1,000?
Yes.
Councillor Savage?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
And I do as well. All right, our next one is St. Joseph Stage Profits, a May event. That was a show. I don't think it's happening with COVID-19. So that concludes our budget. Deb, can you tell me how much that is?
We're granting out to individual organizations $19,000. And there will be $7,000 that will be put into a grant contingency fund, and that is $26,000.
Excellent, thank you. So if we could have a recommendation for council to approve the 2020-2021 grants to organizations in the amount of $19,000 granted, $7,000 contingent for inclusion in the operational budget, which will be presented at the scheduled budget meeting number 2 on May 20th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the 2020-2021 grants to organizations in the amount of $19,000 granted, $7,000 contingent for inclusion in the operational budget, which will be presented at the scheduled budget meeting number 2 on May 20th, 2020. Is there any discussion? Councillor Andrew, you have your hand up?
I'm happy with that and in favor of that. I just wanted to know if it'd be appropriate for me to send a nudge to the King's volunteer, what are they called? The King's, the group we just agreed to fund. I can tell you from my experience that that they have changed. When they were in the provincial building, to be honest with you, I would never have supported what I saw there. And I don't think their strength is, to be honest, from what I've seen, their strength is really not connecting volunteers. They're part of a larger provincial entity as well. But I don't think that's their area of strength, because I think most groups, the one I'm associated with and others, do their own, find their own kind of volunteers, and it happens rather organically. But they've had, what I've seen over the last couple of years is they've had a significant shift in providing, in facilitating networking, and also providing a lot of education and training. So I think it would be really worthwhile for them to come in and kind of explain how they help the nonprofit sector in a whole different, because I just think that's shifted, and I don't think that it's a story that we've really heard as a council. So if it's okay with everyone, I may even send a nudge and say, why don't you send a request our way to come in and talk to us sometime? Because I think we would all appreciate hearing that. So
It's
anyway.
been a few years since we saw Bruce.
Yes, yeah.
Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. Just to follow up on that, perhaps maybe we can amend the motion and meet them halfway, then give them $1,500.
Can we wait until we see what they're doing?
Certainly. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? CAO?
Your Worship, the King's Volunteer Resource Center only asked for 2,000.
Yes.
So the 1,000 that you granted is 50%.
Yep.
Yes.
Councillor Boland.
Yeah, he wanted to meet them halfway and give them the other half.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the 2020-2021 grants to organizations in the amount of $19,000 for inclusion on the operational budget, which will be presented, and $7,000 contingent, which will be presented at the scheduled budget meeting number 2 on May 20th, 2020. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
Councillor Savage?
Yes.
I say yes. Motion is carried unanimously. And we require a motion to adjourn the budget meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good work. Ready for tomorrow.